Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another installment of Flyera Gonna Flyera, episode 48. We are just 2 away from the 50 episode milestone. It's getting close. It feels like just yesterday we opened our little Flyer infancy, and we're almost now 50 episodes in. But we got a good one for you this week. We're going to be going over a couple of things. Porter Martone has picked a college. He'll be heading to Michigan State. We'll be going over that and our thoughts on that. In a little bit of panic out of Flyer land, thinking that this could turn into another potential Kataguchi situation. Don't worry, Flyer fans. We're here to wave the fan on that. Actually, pour the water on that fire. Waving the fans will just make it worse. Pour the water on that fire and relax, all you guys, because let me tell you right now, this is nothing like Cutter. And we'll explain why in this episode. We're going to go over just the Flyers offseason again in general. Is this the end of their moves, or do they have one or two little tricks potentially being pulled out of their sleeves? Pretty much more of a little recap and then going over that. And then last but not least, we'll be giving our predictions for some opening night lineups with or without Tyson Forster, depending if he will be there or not with his injury. But yeah, we'll be getting into that as well. Beside me is one of my two awesome, gracious co-hosts. You know him, you love him. My right, Mr. Eric Martino. Eric, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. Recording on location today at my mom's. That's why my background is a little different, a little more old lady like, but you know.
He's bringing the classic look today. He's got
of course,
a little bit of class and pizzazz with us here at the Flyer group. We're a classy bunch here. We don't.
Oh yeah.
We might swear a lot, but you know, we try to have some civilization here and whatnot here at Flyerland. We're not gonna just throw you guys out without a little, nice decor here and there.
What? You gotta bring that class. You gotta bring it.
Oh.
You know? I gotta.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. But anyway, with that being said,
let's get ready to rumble.
We got a good one for you this week. So let's start it off with this. Porter Martone, he has officially found a new home. The 18-year-old rookie, I'm still getting him mixed up with Luchenko. 18-year-old rookie has officially committed to Michigan State University, where he will be playing college hockey for the Michigan State Spartans next year. Should be interesting. And you know what? I personally am glad about this, that he's getting some opportunity to develop, play with some adults, instead of dominating the OHL again for another year and whatnot. He's clearly outclassed the players there. Let him play against more higher-end talent. But with that being said, Eric, let you dive into this. What do you think about Martone going to MSU? Any thoughts? Is that where you wanted him to go? Are you happy about the situation in general?
No, yeah. I honestly, I think it's the best thing for him, because like you just said, like if he goes back to juniors, that would be, I think, his fourth year, if I'm not mistaken, in junior. What else does he have to prove? He's proved everything that he's had to in that league. So now he should be focused more on playing against older competition, maybe stronger competition, and that's what he's going to get in the NCAA. So look, he could really, like, he's already a big kid, so he could like focus also more on strength training, like they do in the NCAA. Like, he's going to have more time to work on his hockey strength, you know, and that's it. Like, he's going to be playing against like older competition, like in juniors, right? You're playing against 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds where, you know, he's dominated. He's done that, been there, done that. And so now, you know, like, so if he could play some older competition, he could, at least, you know, it's a new challenge. It's a completely new challenge for him. And hopefully, you know, like, hopefully he can succeed, because at the end of the day, I don't know even if he would have came to training camp and tried to make the team and everything. And like, I didn't want to just have a spot open for him just because, you know? And like, look, with some of the signings that they did make and trades that they did make in this past off season, honestly, you look at the lineup and you're like, where would he even fit? Like I guess Forster is hurt, so I guess he could take Forster's spot. But like, you have guys like Alex Bump, you have guys like Gerbenkin, even Tuamala or whatever, guys that are already in the system that might would could easily take that spot and give Cutter give Martone.
PTSD, like what we said. Cutter Gauthier PTSD is strong in the orange.
It's in the brain. It's stuck there. But no, but like having 1 year in college, you know what? It's gonna be beneficial for him. He's gonna have a blast. He's gonna have a good time. Live that college life. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself. And then you know what? Come whatever, April, May, whenever their season finishes, depending on where the Flyers are at, you know what, the door's always open. So best thing for him, honestly.
Yeah. You know what? I agree here. Listen, he's 18 years old. I get the kid wants to make the NHL. He's already got the size for it. I will say that. He's 6'1", 6 feet. I think he's 6'1", 205 already. Something along those lines. Big kid. As I've already mentioned, elated with the pick. So could you argue that maybe he could have been NHL ready day one? Yeah, possibly. But why rush? Why fuck with his development? Why put him in a position where he's going to be probably playing maybe the third line, maybe occasionally second line? But why not let him acclimate to the NCAA game, the American game, play with not kids, but young adults that are older than him, that are also pretty much almost NHL ready prospects. You're going to be playing against a lot of high-end colleges over the next few months. You're going to be playing against your Arizona States, your St. Cloud States, your Boston colleges, your Boston universities, your Denvers, your North Dakota States, your Northeasterns, your Harvards of the world, your Michigans, Ohio State, Penn State even starting to come on the map. You got a lot of really good schools that have a lot of really high-end prospects that you can really, test your game and grow your game against. Why rush him? Why put yourself into a situation where if this kid isn't ready, not just physically, but mentally for the 82-game grind where you fuck with his confidence and you end up having a position where he might end up, taking a step back and questioning himself a little bit. Don't take that chance. Let him marinate. Let him do it the right way. I had the same thought process on Jet Luchenko. I was the same last year, same this year, because I personally don't know if there's a spot for him, but that's an argument for another day. We'll talk probably more about him once we get closer to training camp. But with that being said, I am happy that Martone looks like he's found a spot that he can grow and develop. I think who else is on that Michigan State roster?
Van Sagi's on there.
Van Sagi, yes. So you got another Flyers prospect that he's going to be able to marinate with. And at the end of the year, he can sign that ELC. As you mentioned, you can have him play in the last handful of games of the year. And if they're lucky enough and they're competing for a playoff spot, maybe even get him some playoff experience. Who knows? We got quite a few months still until the NHL season begins. We got probably about 2.5 to put it into a rough timeline frame. But he's good. You're not going to be playing the question of will he be ready? Is he going to end up pushing for that spot and getting the backlash of the fan base if he doesn't, or that chunk of the fan base that wants him to play night one? And as you mentioned, Eric, there are a handful of other prospects that are pushing for a spot. Alex Bump, who looks like, I won't say he's a 100% lock, but the closest thing you can say to a lock for a prospect to make a roster spot. Gerbenkin, who could be pushing for a bottom 6 role. If Jet Luchenko does have a good enough night, training camp, who knows? Maybe he does push for a roster spot. As I mentioned, I don't want to rush him yet either, just because I do think there is a little bit of a log jam at the center spot. That's if you want to move Noah Cates over to the wing. That's a discussion for another day. But, yeah, with that being said, there are a handful of guys that will be pushing for roster spots. And another thing that has been coming up with Flyers Twitter is the comps to what happened with Cutter Gauthier. So let me explain why exactly Flyer fans need to take a step, take a breath. This is not Cutter 2.0. The number one most important thing is Cutter Gauthier was already committed to Boston College before he was drafted. It is a completely different situation. He already knew what he was doing beforehand. He already had his game plan divulged of what he was going to do, and then he was going to end up coming over after the fact. Well, Alex, another thing is, Porter Martone picked his college after the fact, but they're both in the same timeline of, after this year, they're both going to want to go pro. Not exactly. Number one, Cutter Gauthier was under a completely different management that got fired mid-season, and then new management took over. Danny Briere is not getting fired this year. He will have the same general manager from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So that's one thing people need to realize. It's the same person he will be communicating with. In the case of Cutter Gauthier, he had Chuck Fletcher giving promises out, saying, hey, listen, we're going to bring you up at the end of the college season. We're going to have you here night one. Right away, have you, not night one, but right away, have you sign your ELC and then play for the big club. No. Chuck Fletcher got fired. Danny Briere took over, and you have a new boss. And the new boss isn't going to necessarily take the word of the old boss. Like, maybe the old boss promised you something, but the new boss is going to say, hey, listen, you're going to have to prove it to me. I have a game plan that I want to do. And yeah, maybe Danny was the old assistant manager for Chuck Fletcher, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they had the same thought process. Danny probably didn't agree with Chuck wanting to bring him instantly, which is what led to the rumored falling out party between Danny and Cutter, where Danny said, we wanted you to play another year out in college. And then Cutter Gauthier completely shutting them out. And that leads to my third point. There was a lot more communication between Danny Briere's party and the Porter Martone party. Danny Briere got completely shut out by Cutter Gauthier. They traveled overseas to try to talk to this guy during the World Juniors. Wouldn't speak to him. They tried contacting him. Wouldn't give him the time of the day. They tried. He wouldn't come to development camp the next year after he made some bogus ass excuse saying, I'm too tired from too much hockey. Who the hell's ever heard of that? My dumbass believed it at the time, unfortunately. But now looking back at it, it's like, who the hell's ever heard of that? I played too much hockey. That just sounds BS. I'm not ready to compete type of excuse. Porter Martone does not have that DNA in him. From what you've seen, this kid is raved, and I get it, Cutter did too when he was first drafted. But when Martone is raved about the Flyers since day one, he is raved about the process, and he's even said, listen, if this doesn't end up working out where I don't make the team night one, that's fine. I'll go look at the college route. I have no issue with that. He said that during his interviews during development camp. And that's the comforting thing about this. You have a lot more communication. You have a lot more solidarity when it comes to Porter Martone. This is not Cutter Gauthier 2.0. People need to take a deep breath and realize you have two different people. You have two different mentalities here. You have two different regimes. Danny Briere had to take over from Chuck Fletcher's mess. Danny's now running his own type ship, and he's not going to have the same thing happen with Porter Martone that he did with Cutter Gauthier. He will sign his ELC when the season begins, or when his season ends. I'm sorry. Eric, do you have anything to add to all that?
No, I agree 100%. It's like you said, I think it's two completely different situations altogether. Like you had said, like Cutter was under a different regime when he was drafted, and I'm sure there was promises made to him. And look, things happen, and unfortunately, the promises that he weren't able to be fulfilled. From my understanding of that situation, was more of that Briere didn't want to sign him to the ALC because, and we all remember what that season was like. It was a god awful season. The room was a mess and everything. And from what I understood was he had no issue signing Cutter Gauthier to a contract. It's just he told him it's gonna be for next season.
Mhm.
Like, if you want, you sign a PTO, an ATO, and you go play with the Phantoms. Which, who did that this year? Alex Bump. He said, you know what? Why am I gonna play one NHL game, maybe two, for what? When I can go compete for possibly a Calder Cup, you know, play another like 10, 15 games and get to know some younger kids, some younger players that I might end up playing with in the future in the next couple of years or so. But Cutter didn't see it that way, and he unfortunately decided to ghost the Flyers and say, "Screw you guys, trade me." Which honestly for me just shows bad character. But anyway, whatever. That's I'm don't want to even discuss that anymore. But yeah, no, but like the whole Porter Martone, and I think it was Kevin Kurz, right? That
Yeah.
asked Danny that question, and Danny shot him down right away and said, "Listen, we talked, and it's not going to be an issue." So honestly, I think this was just a plan. It wouldn't even shock me if like Briere, Porter Martone, and his agent got together and said, "Listen, if you wanna come to camp and you want to stay in juniors, we're fine with that. You at the end of the day, it's like your decision, you know. But like if you do want to go to college and play against better quality opponents, well, listen, like you can't come to camp and like you probably like you could compete for a spot, but if you don't make it, it's not you can't have to go back to
Yeah.
college, you know?
That's the
Like
big
someone
difference.
yeah, it's like someone was speculating, and I think I said it on another episode once. It's like you could do late enrollment, which basically, and he wasn't 100% sure if it's possible, but he was pretty sure. It's basically that Porter Martone would have had to come to camp and basically either like compete for a spot, and then he could apply. He could have late enrollment, but he would only be able to go to college as of like January, basically the second semester. So, and then but now is it worth it? Then what do you do before that? And it's like it would have been a whole mess.
Yeah.
So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if like they all sat down together and Briere told him, like, listen, honestly, we think the best thing for you is to go to college. College is supposed to be a blast. Go have a blast for a year, and like I just looked it up. Like he's 6'3", 208. So he's got size. He's a big boy. But now, like, if he could hit the gym 2-3 times a week, whatever, as much as they do in college, I know they hit it like all kinds during
Imagine
the
he
week.
comes into camp next year about 220 jacked.
Yeah, like even like a solid 215, even like a solid 215. You know how much of a difference that could be, like for especially a guy with his height and everything. Like it would just give him so much more of a leg up. And then like we said, you see at the end of the season, like if the Flyers are completely out of it, and again, like if I'm Danny, I'm like, listen, you have the option. I'm gonna leave it to you. At the same time, you don't want to start screwing around with him. You leave it up to him. Like you could sign your ELC, we have no problem. You could come play 1 or 2 games. Or if you want, depending on what the Phantoms are doing and like depending where the Flyers are at, you could sign an ATO and go compete for a Calder Cup. Like and then next season, obviously, you come to camp and we'll check it out. But honestly, like I said, I'm not worried about this. I'm pretty sure like the communication is there. Like he wouldn't have. I'm sure they talked, and I don't think he would have gone to college if he didn't have some kind of guarantee. Well, maybe not guarantee, but like some kind of understanding with the Flyers, basically. And no, I think honestly, I'm not worried, and this is the best thing for his development.
Agreed. And listen, you made a very good point when it came to how things going to be handled in training camp. Like if let's say hypothetically, as you just mentioned, he didn't have a college spot picked out and he didn't make the team, hit the hammer on the nail. He's got to go back to the AHL unless he signs an ATO, which would be a giant mess. You hit the hammer on the nail on that. So why put yourself into that level of predicament? Let him play against more talented players and continue his progression and take a step forward and let him challenge himself. As you just mentioned, let him bulk up a little more. Get him ready for next year at the end of this year and have him come into camp for the 26-27 season at fucking 6'3", 215 or 220. Having a bruiser at 19 years old like that already, You got your fucking next Kachuk brother, as I just mentioned. That's what he's been comped to. Or a Miko Rantanen type. That's fantastic praise. Or a Corey Perry in his prime. That's another name I've heard. The comps you're getting with this kid and his size and physicality and his drive are awesome. You got your next stud power forward in this league when he's ready to go. So let him marinate. Let him get ready. Don't fuck with the development. Sign him in April or whenever their season ends. Maybe it's late March. Who knows? I don't think it will be. I think Michigan State will be a half-decent team, but if they're not, sign him in late March or whatever. Anyway, Eric, anything else to add on the Martone front before we move to our next topic?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
All right. I should have mentioned this, ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of the show. Jamey will probably be joining us at some point this episode. He did message me on the side. He's going to be in and out some of these episodes sporadically due to the summer, but he'll be back to his normal full-time gig once the season begins. But yeah, I just want to throw that out there before we jump into this. But yes, he should be here hopefully at some point this episode. He did message me that. So we'll see if that ends up happening. But with that being said, let's move on to the next point of the episode. The Flyers offseason. Are they done? Or do we have another move or two potentially coming? Eric, let me start with you. Give me a wrap up on this offseason. You think they're done? You think they got something else coming? Are you satisfied as a whole?
I think they're pretty much done. I don't really see and when I mean done, I mean any signings, actual signings or trades. I don't really see anything like that happening. The one thing I could see the Flyers do is I would not be shocked if they invite at least one or maybe two players to camp on a PTO. That's I definitely see that happening again because we don't know what's going on with Forrester. Is he going to be ready to start the season or not? That leaves it leaves Luchenko. Is he going to make the team? If he doesn't, it might create another spot. Delorier, look, as much as Delorier is probably a nice guy and everything and great in the locker room, he's not. I don't think he's an everyday player anymore. So that might be another spot that you have to look into. So I came up with 3 names, and one of these guys I'm actually surprised is actually still available. So these are 3 guys I could definitely see the Flyers target for PTOs. One is Victor Olofsson, left wing. He played for Vegas last season. He's 30 years old. In 56 games, he had 15 goals, 14 assists for 29 points. He didn't put up great numbers last year, but solid.
That's third line production.
Yeah, exactly. And look, he's a 3-time 20-goal scorer. He's scored 20 goals in this league 3 times in the past. So the offense is there for him. He's not huge. He's not small. He's 5'11", so he's on a bit of the smaller side. But you know what? Whatever. For a guy, you're bringing in this guy on a PTO. Who cares? So that's 1. 2, a guy I don't know. I've always loved this player, but he's getting up there in age. But Thomas Tatar, I think he played for New Jersey last year. He's 34 years old. He had 7 goals, 10 assists for 17 points in 74 games. So his production has really dipped in the past couple of years. He doesn't put up the offense that he used to, but at the same time, he's a good veteran. He's probably a good guy to have it around the team. And if he's your 13th forward, that you could plug and play for a few games here and there, if you rotate, let's say him and Delorier every once in a while, it might not be the worst thing in the world. But a solid veteran, maybe to have on the team. So that's number 2. Number 3, Yoel Kiviranta. Now, he's a bit younger. He's 29 years old. He played with the Avs last year. And in 79 games, he had 16 goals, 7 assists for 23 points. Again, not massive production, but it is the most points he's had in his career. He's only been in the league for a few years. The most production he's had. So possibly, there's more to come. Like he's still young, so like he's not old. He's not super young, but he's not oldish. So maybe there's something a little bit more to unlock. But these are the guys and like look, honestly, if you go through the list of who's actually available right now, like it's very shallow. Like there's not it's very slim pickings, and we saw that like even just during the free agency period. Like
Yeah.
it was a little rough this year. So, but yeah, no, but like look, these are three guys that I can possibly see, like even just you know, just battle, even just camp bodies, battle for a spot. Because look, if Bump maybe is not 100% ready to be an everyday NHLer, and like I said, Delorier is not ready, and if Forster is still hurt, you need a body. You need an NHL body. So as long as it's somebody that could take like like you just take the spot for like a few games, as long as Forster's gone or whatever. Like these are three guys that I could see the Flyers possibly inviting for on a PTO.
Valid, valid. Honestly, those are three good picks. Olofsson, I didn't realize how good his numbers were this year. That would really just caught me eye, especially. That would be a good plug and play third
Yeah.
line guy, to be perfectly honest with you. Tatar too. I mean, obviously you're not going to get Detroit Tatar anymore. That Tatar's long gone, but that wouldn't be a bad ad as well. Who was the third guy you said again? I'm sorry.
Yoel Kiviranta.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So honestly, all three of those guys aren't badass, but Olson's the one that really caught my eye.
Yep.
Me personally, I think their off season is likely done. You might see a PTO, as you mentioned, or two. I think they've got quite a bit of guys on the roster that they feel comfortable with, that they can slide at least for the time being. One name that doesn't get it talked about enough that they did, in fact, re-sign, and I believe it was if I remember correctly, I think this was a one-way contract, was Rodrigo Abels.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're just going to sit him. I think he's going to probably be playing a lot of fourth line minutes for this team, especially now that he's back again. So, realistically, if Forster is indeed out, which is an extremely murky situation, who knows with that? He may or may not be here opening night. He may or may not play this season. Who the hell knows? Hopefully it's the former, because I don't want to have a whole season of Tyson Forster's production missed because of a fucking infection. But with that being said, I think a lot of this is going to hinge on Forster's health. I think if they are going to make a move, it's not going to be until at least training camp time. I mean, they did a lot of the things they said they were going to do. They wanted to add a center help. They did with Trevor Zegras with that trade, which is a good, significant add. They added Dvorak in their bottom six for, a good PK guy, kind of the new Scott Lawton. He's only here for 1 year, so you could always flip him at the deadline if he builds enough value. You got your backup goalie in Dan Vladar, so you check that mark off. And, I got to say, I've talked with a few Calgary fans on social media. They've done nothing but praise this guy. They were very high on him. He's not a guy that have been pretty much kicked off to the curb and said, "Oh, you wait until you see how bad he plays." No, they have done nothing but be respectful about this dude. He's played in a lot of big time games. And I guess when Wolf was going through his issues later in the year, I think you mentioned this on a prior episode, he really did step into this team and keep Calgary in the hunt. So if you getting Vladar of last year, who got you a 895 save percentage or something pushing 900,
898.
What was it?
898 last year.
Even better. If you get 898 Dan Vladar again, he did his job. That's what you're asking for in a goalie, is right around that. 900 realistically is what you hope for, but with the average save percentage, I believe you also mentioned this last episode, was 900 last year, right?
Yeah.
So he is just a tick below what you're getting from average save percentage from a goalie. So if you're getting that from a backup goalie, he did his job. So I expect Vladar to come here and play respectable. I kind of get Brian Elliott vibes out of this. Maybe not quite to that level, but to maybe a poor man's Brian Elliott is what you're getting out of Dan Vladar. So Danny did all the things he said he was going to do this offseason. They added some bottom six help. They added a potential top six center. who's young, that fits with the team's timeline, and you added the goalie. So realistically, they could add some PTO guys. I haven't gone too in depth with some potential names they could go after, but there's definitely some names that would be interesting for this team. I want to say at the end of the day, they'll realistically probably have what you see right now be something similar to their opening night. Who's going to be part of this team. Mitch Hoff will be in your top six. Konechny will be in your top six. Couturier will be a top six center. Zegras will be in your top six. And I want to say that Owen Tippett hopefully pushes back for a top six spot again. I've seen so many mixed opinions on him. I want to hope that last year was a one-off, that he didn't shoot the puck quite as much as he did last year, even though he missed the damn net a fuck ton, which is concerning still. But I want to say, listen, you got this guy locked up to 8 years, so you want to have him ready in your top six. And then, as we mentioned, the big question mark with Tyson Forster. Anything else to add, though, before we move on to our next topic of opening night lineups?
Actually, I just want to mention this real quick because you were talking about Vladar, and yeah, you're right. No, last episode, I broke down why I thought that was a good signing, and actually I think it was this week or last week that I put out a thread on Twitter too, breaking down why I am actually high on Vladar, and there was an interesting I was looking through his stats, and I don't think I mentioned this last week on the episode, but 5-on-5. With Calgary last year, he had a .913 save percentage.
That's solid. That's very solid, actually.
His PK was at .802, and Calgary had the 25th ranked penalty kill, 76.1%. So just that could easily have skewed his numbers to make him possibly look worse than he actually played. Because I was looking at Dustin Wolf at the same time. And if I'm not mistaken, Dustin Wolf's 5-on-5 was .918, so it was only 0.05, or 0.05 whatever percentage point better than Vladar. So it's not the biggest difference. Where Wolf's biggest difference against Vladar was on the PK, but even Wolf was still under 900 on the PK. I think it was something like an 889 or something like that. Can't really remember off the top of my head, but just to say, a lot of because I still last week or whatever, I still heard people be like, "Oh, Vladar, they could have got somebody better." I'm like, there was nobody fucking better available.
Listen, they had their hands on the Jake Allen basket, and that basket never became available.
Plus, he's young enough that he's still he's entering as a goalie. He's entering his prime at this age. If you wanted to go give a contract to a 32, 33-year-old guy that is what he is at this point, I think that's a dumb idea. I'd rather take a chance on a young guy who's put up pretty decent numbers and is only getting better, So you can't just look at his, because I see a lot of people oh, you only had an 898 last year. Oh, he sucks. I'm like, well, no, actually look at his numbers, break down what his actual numbers are. And like I said, last week on the show, I said, he had 3 games last year that he had 2 that he was under 700 save percentage. One because he came in relief of Dustin Wolf, and he only faced 3 shots and then 1 goal. And the other was a game where the coach left him in for 8 goals against. Who does that?
That's on the coach more than him at that point. Throw the kid a life jacket.
And there was another one where he was at 7-something. And that's because it was one of those games. I think it was against. Oh fuck! I think I have it here. Yeah, it was it was against Vancouver, where it was just back and forth hockey. It was just back and forth. It was just one of those games where you're not getting a save. It was a 6-5 game, and he ended up winning it. That's where it is. Yeah, his team actually won the game. So, no, look, I'm solid on Wolf, and I just wanted to give a little extra on that. Sorry, on Vladar.
Yeah, but 913 save percentage is big.
5-on-5. Yeah.
That needs to be emphasized more. A 913 save percentage 5-on-5. That shows me right there that this kid is consistent and doesn't break under pressure. You may have gotten yourself a little bit, I won't say a gem in the rough, but something that's better than originally advertised. So
Yeah.
let's see. And I will say this, I do think the Flyers decor is going to be better this year than last year. So you might get a little more stability on the blue line as well, too. So with that being said, let's move to opening night lines. So we're
Okay.
going to do this kind of in two different ways. We'll have a group of lines with Tyson Forster, kind of a group of lines without Tyson Forster, because we don't know for sure if he's going to be there opening night. So, Eric, the floor is yours. Give me your opening night lines. Deep forwards, defensemen, goalies, and as to why.
Okay. So as for the forwards, I'm gonna assume the first list I'm gonna give you, I'm going to assume that Forrester is not playing. That he's not taking part. So my first line is going to be Alex Bump, Sean Couturier, and TK. Okay. Why I like this line is you have the veteran Couturier and in Konechny that could take this young kid, this young up and coming kid, a kid with has got some talent, and like basically take them under his wing and like show him the way, like lead him and like just show him the way, show him how to be a professional, show him how to play hockey, show him this is what you got to do, this is what it takes. Let's go, buddy. Like kick him under your wing and let's see what he could do. So that's my first. That's my first line. My second line would be Noah Cates on the left wing, Zegras in the middle, and Mishkov on the right. So why I have this line the way like this is because I want someone defensively responsible like Cates to be playing with probably your two of your best probably offensive players. You need somebody that could be defensively responsible to help them. Someone who's also ferocious on the forecheck. If you see Cates, man, I've seen Cates last year just go on that forecheck. So if they do dump it in, Cates is probably that forward one in to retrieve that puck. And at the same time, also, like he's got to work on it a little bit, but he can take the face-offs if ever. So if ever like there's a face-off, like he could just rotate with Zegras. Cates takes his draw, and then once they gain possession, they just pull like a little switch or something. But that's how I see the second line. But also, just quick little side note, little asterisk. Cates and where I'm gonna have Dvorak after. These are my swing guys. So basically, Dvorak could possibly go up and play on the wing on the second line, and then Cates moves to Dvorak.
Yes, Swiss Army knives, pretty much.
Exactly. They're the guys I'm gonna have them switching probably depending on the coach. Talk it depending whatever kind of matchup he has. Maybe he prefers like Dvorak or he prefers Cates playing with those two guys, depending on what defensive zone, offensive zone, neutral zone, depending on where the play is. So they're like my swing guys. So my third line is Tippett, Luchenko, and Bobby Brink. I have Luchenko making this team. Why? Honestly, I don't think he has anything else to prove in juniors. He has nothing left to do in juniors. You saw the way he played in the AHL last year. Like, why? Why would I send him back to juniors? It makes and it sucks. Honestly, it really, really fucking sucks that stupid rule is only coming out next year.
Yeah, no kidding. You could send him the AHL.
The AHL would have been 1 year in the AHL would have been perfect for Luchenko. But at the same time, like I find if we gotta send him back to juniors for one more year, like is it gonna be just a waste of time for the kid? And that's why I think even if he's gonna get like 12 minutes a game, because honestly, I think the way the Flyers are gonna roll their lines this year, you're not gonna have the traditional 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they're gonna roll all 4 lines depending on situation, depending on like what like where you are on the ice. You're not gonna have the traditional. Oh, this is your first line. This is your second line. No, I think the Flyers are gonna roll all 4 lines, and I think Luchenko and Tippett together with the speed that they can bring they can scare the defenses in the league. Like you're gonna have to you won't be able to play them one-on-one as easily. You got to give them that space because they're gonna burn you. So I think having Tippin and Luchenko together with Bobby Brink, I think could be a really good third line. And then my fourth line is gonna be Grabenkin, Dvorak, and Hathaway. So I think this could be a really good grinding line with some offensive pop. I have Grabenkin there right now, but it could as easily be Anthony Richard. It can as easily be Abels or something, or Gaucher. But I have right now. I put in Grabenkin because he's younger. I want to see what he can do. So that's my forward group. As it comes to defense, it's pretty much gonna be a lot like last year. It's gonna be Sanheim and York. It's gonna be Sealer and Drysdale. But on my third pair, I want to see Andre and Grant. Those are the two guys I really hope make the team this year out of camp. Because at this point, we need to know what they are, what they're capable of. Because if they can't do it this year, then you really got to start thinking, especially with Andre, because Andre's getting to a point now where you're like, okay, well, now you're starting to get 24 years old. You're starting to become like 24 years old. Now you're starting to become more like a young veteran, I guess you could say. So, and like I said, with York and with Drysdale already, you have two undersized-ish defensemen. Andre, that makes three. So I think this is going to be a huge training camp for Andre, and he's got to show something. So that's my defense. As it comes to goaltending, it's going to be Ursan and Vladar. Like, I think I wouldn't be shocked if it's literally like a 41-41 split or like 47 whatever.
Yeah.
So, I'm not expecting anything to change for there. And as it comes to Forrester, like basically, if he's healthy when he comes back, he basically takes bump spot on the first line, and then either bump goes to the fourth line. But if they don't want, or the second line, but I think I would keep a more defensively responsible player there with Zegras and Mishkov. So then maybe he plays on the fourth line, or he goes to the AHL. Pretty much.
Gotcha. And with all that being said, excellent job as always, Eric. My apologies. I did not want to stop you there, as you were on a fucking roll right there.
Because he is.
We have been joined by Mr. Jamey Baskow. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm freaking doing great. Eric, you're a legend. I love it. I love those lines, to be honest, because I got bumping Gripek and making the team as well.
Awesome.
So
great minds think alike, Jamey.
Damn right they do. Oh, you mean yours and Alex's? Mine's just left out to the dust. That's about it.
So, Mr. Baskow, let me put the ball in your court since you're now here. We were just talking about opening night lines. You can do this with or without Tyson Forster due to the murkiness of his injury. I'll leave it in your decision. How would you make the lines opening night with the forwards, the defensemen, and the goalies?
Well, I'll start with the easy one, the goalies. That's definitely Ursan and Vladar. I think, you're going to make a case for a third goalie. I actually think the Flyers could carry a third goalie. Kind of weird, right? Just like last year, that could be Kolosov or Fedotov. I think actually one of them does make it. It's a weird case with Fedotov. They waive him. A team could pick him up with that cap. Not sure that any team would bite, but nonetheless, they risk losing a goaltender if they do waive him. With Kolosov, he's just uncertain, right? No one knows it's certainty for next year. Although everyone expects him to report because he's still under contract with the Flyers, right? So he's supposed to report the training camp. So I actually think they're going to carry a third goalie, especially with I butchered his name, Petruzzioli, re-signing with an AHL contract with the Phantoms there. Keep Petruzzelli last week with the Phantoms. So now you got him, and then they're stocked there in Lehigh, and with the Royals, they really don't have much room, in terms of goaltenders. So I think that they'll have to waive, Fedotov or run with Kolosov, as a third goalie. I can see them. I think they're going to carry three. That's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong by that. And in terms of the defensive group, I'll start backwards. I know I'm a little odd, right? So in terms of defensive group, I actually have, I have the same pairings pretty much as Eric, but mine, I don't have Grons making the team since they signed Nick Juleson. I have Juleson actually making the squad, and having that pairing between Andre and Juleson or Andre and Zamula. I do have Emil Andre making the club because I think I agree with Eric. You have to find out what you got, at least in Andre. At the very least, with Emil Andre, you have to find out what you have in him. He's stuck there at the AHL. There's not much more he could prove at the AHL level. It's either sink or swim at this point, in my personal opinion with Emil Andre. Helge Grond, I think he's going to get time, but the handcuff there is Igor Zamula. They have Zamula still under contract, so due to his relationship that he has with Mafi Michkov, I don't think the Flyers are in any time of the essence there to move Zamula at this moment, or send him to the Phantoms. I think that would do damage to Michkov, believe it or not, in my personal opinion, I guess. So I would keep Zamula around. So I got Juleson making that last spot. But my pairings are the same. I got Sealer with Drysdale. I think that's a good compliment there because you're going to want, Drysdale to pinch. Somebody has to be defensively responsible. Sealer would be that guy. I did like York and Drysdale together, so to speak, last year as the year wore on there. But I could see both wanting to pinch. I think this is a big year for York. I can see him wanting to pinch and not being defensively responsible, just taking the jump, and stuff like that. So I like Eric's pairings. Just mine is just you switch Juleson off that with Grons. And then he's actually on the IR right now, Juleson. They signed him. He was injured. He got injured late last year. I think it was around February or March. He sustained an injury in the end of this season. But he's on the IR up until training camp. They haven't had time. Obviously the Flyers know his injury history, or else they wouldn't have signed him if he was still going to be hurt, especially with Risto out. They wouldn't have taken that risk. But in terms of the forward group, I actually have Bumpin' Grebenkin making the team. So it's pretty much the same as what probably what you guys put forth. Aside from my first line is going to be just a top over the top line, and it could or could not happen. I actually have Michkov, Zegras, and TK together on the top line. I think that's a hell of a line. People are like, I'm getting some slack by that, saying who's going to play defense. Well, you know what? They're all sort of defensively responsible under Rick Tocchet. Rick Tocchett's sort of the same coach, same coaching style, so to speak. It's John Tortorella. So I don't think any of them, won't play defense. I think they all will play defense, in my personal opinion. Then I got Tippett, Coots, and Forrester. Then I got Bump, Cates, and Brink. I love that line. I think that complements line. That's a really hell of a line there. I like Bump on that third line. I think he'll provide some energy, some good scoring ability there. Cates is I think going to play down the middle. Some people have him on the wing. I do not. But then I have Grebenkin, Abels, and actually I have Hathaway. I actually have the Flyers waiving Delorier. To start the season to open up some cap. Because I think they're 400,000 over the cap right now.
No, they're under it.
They're under
Oh, they are under it.
They can always wait for Fedotov too, but I'm not. I think they're currently under by about 500K.
Oh, okay.
Cappy. Wikipedia says they have $370,000 in cap space available right now.
Okay.
Oh, see, I thought it was the other way. So, wow, even better. You don't have to waive Delorier. They'll just keep him as the 13th forward. So I think the Flyers will go 13. I think they're going to go 13. I think they'll go 13 forwards, 7. Yeah, 7 and 3, and then that'll bring them to 23 at the roster max. Not ideal to open the season because I don't think the Flyers want to carry 23. I think they want to open up, that because what is this a new year of the CBA changes, or is that going to affect the following season? Where you have. Okay. So they don't have to worry about the recalls and stuff like that.
Yeah,
See, I missed a large portion. I got to go back and read all that as well. I just knew that there were changes in terms of recalls, that it's mandatory that they have to be recalled for a certain amount of games before you can just ship them back and stuff. So that's a new rule that will be implemented next year, fans, just to give you a heads up. Not this coming season anyway, the changes. So those are some changes to look out for, but I think that's a hell of a lineup to, open up. I think Grebenkin is a safe bet. I think that, he just has NHL experience, and I think it's now sink or swim with him. I think they got to figure out what they have, Grebenkin, whether he's part of the organization moving forward, or is he just another bump in the road?
How old is Grebenkin?
I think he's 23, but I could be wrong by that.
Okay, I'll do a quick Google search on that. But good line combos there, Jamey. Some of the stuff I'll have a little similar to you. Some will be a little bit different. So I'm going to go mine kind of traditionally more closer to Eric. He's currently 22, by the way.
Yeah,
22. Okay, cool.
Might have a little bit more leverage with him. We'll see when it comes to that. So my opening night lines, let me just come out and say this. These lines are not obviously going to be at the end of the year. These are going to probably fluctuate quite a bit. But this is how I have the Flyers opening. So I'm going to do mine first with Tyson Forster playing and then one without him. So the forwards, my first line. Left wing, Tyson Forster. Center, Trevor Zegras. Right wing, Matvei Michkov. I want to see Zegras and Michkov together. Opening night. I want to see those two together.
That's a heck of a line.
I want to see them showcase his skill. The only difference I have with you, Jamey, is I want to have that at least some defensive stability over at the wing. And you know I'm the number one fan of the Tyson Forster fan club. I want to see this kid be pushed into the top 6 instantly. Have him start at left wing 1. He was second in goals scored for this team last year. He absolutely caught fire in the final month, assuming he's healthy, obviously. That's a big if. But he caught fire at the end of last year. He plays a very strong structural two-way game. And another thing that people don't give him enough credit for, he's a big body. He's about 250.
Yeah, dang right. Yeah.
I think he's 6'2", 215. You add some size with the two smaller players in Zegras and Michkov who can elevate their skills a little bit with each other and then have a big, working defensive forward or two-way forward in Trevor Zegras to help elevate their play a little bit by taking away some of the defensive responsibilities that they have to worry about. So that would be my first line. Line 2, left wing is Owen Tippett. Center is Sean Couturier. Right wing is Travis Konecny. I know Owen Tippett had a bad year last year. I understand that. People were giving him crap, and it was rightfully so. He's one of my bottom 3 most disappointing Flyers of last year. I think we can all agree with that. But you have this guy locked up for 8 years. Yeah. You need to pretty much take the leash off of him and let him play and let him, be the player that he was.
Oh, yeah.
Don't let him lose any more confidence he already had last year. I'm going to write last year off. Hopefully, it's just a down year. 27 and 28 goals in 2 years prior. He dropped down to 20 last year. He had less shots on goal last year, but less than 50% of his shots actually hit the target. So that is a little concerning. Down almost 10% from the year before. I believe he was at 55%, dropped down to 45% this year. Check my stats on that. I'm not 100% sure, but it's something around that range.
It's something like that.
But then you had the two-way presence of Sean Couturier, who was much better last year, I believe, than the year before. 2 years ago, Coots fell off. He looked like he was really battling injury, and he was battling some mental issues. The back-and-forth struggle with him and Tortorella. And obviously, he was, I think, battling through injury of coming back from all those back surgeries and the core muscle surgery. Last year, well, obviously, you're probably not going to see the Coots of prime ever again. You saw a more familiarized Coots that we were comfortable with. Last year, Coots was much better than 2 years ago.
Yeah, darn right he was.
Two-way game. He's still the face-off magician that you know and love. He's still a top 10 face-off guy in the league, in my opinion. Still has a strong two-way game. I don't think you'll ever see the offensive output. You'll ever see of him again. When this team is ready to compete again, he'll be pretty much their locked-in 3C long term. Yeah. But for now, keep him at that 2C spot. Let him play with the two shooting missionaries that you already have. And then right wing is Travis Konecny. He led the team in points last year. Yeah. Obviously, he could potentially find himself back on the first line at some point. Who knows? Maybe you move Michkov back to the second line. Maybe you move him and Michkov on the same line together again and move Forster down the line. We'll talk about that as it goes on. But Travis Konecny is still one of your most talented players on this team. You know you're going to hopefully get another 70-plus point season out of him. I want to see him push for a point per game this year. Playing close to 82 games, that is, because he does technically have a point per game season under his belt, I think, 3 years ago. But that's my second line. Line 3, Jamey, I have the same exact third line as you do. Alex Bump, Noah Cates, Bobby Brink. I think Bobby Brink would have probably been traded if Forster's health was 100%, but that's obviously a little murkier now. I think he will be here opening night. But I think Alex Bump is got some good size that can fill in the hole of Tyson Forster. Yeah. You let him play his 15-ish minutes a night with two guys that already have strong chemistry together. So you can put Bump with them and let him acclimate with the way that Cates and Brink play together. Cates is a strong two-way game, as we all know. Brink took a nice step forward this year, plays bigger than his size indicates. At least I think he does. And then you have a kid like Alex Bump that has been the biggest surprise out of this team's prospect pool, without a doubt. And he now gets a chance to play in marinate and develop with two guys that already have very strong chemistry. So it helped build his confidence a little bit. And then the fourth line, I kind of struggle with this a little bit. Do I have Gurbankin making the team? Do I not? Do I have him called up later? And I think at the end of the day, I ended up saying I think Gurbankin will make this team eventually, but I do not have him here opening night. My fourth line is Rodrigo Abels, Christian Dvorak, and Garnet Hathaway. I think Abels being here, signed to that one-year deal, shows that Danny sees him as a fourth-line guy eventually on this team. If Forster doesn't make start night one, I think Gurbankin will more likely than not make this team as that fourth-line guy, and then he can kind of acclimate on the fly, probably move Dvorak up to the third line, and then move Tippett up a line, and then move bump up maybe to line two. But assuming Forster is ready, I think you have Garnet Hathaway, who is your probably locked in fourth line right winger, who has been the definition of consistency in that fourth line for the longest time. Dvorak, who is coming off a 33-point year, a good penalty kill guy, good in the faceoff, something that the Flyers have been at best the middle of the pack in ever since Claude Giroux left this team. So it's good adding a second very good faceoff guy. And another underrated thing, too, that needs to be stressed, having two good faceoff guys like Couturier and Dvorak could really potentially help Trevor Zegras in his faceoff struggles, because that's probably the biggest issue in his game down the middle is he is a mess in the circle. So having guys like Couturier and Dvorak could really help with that.
Yeah.
And then Rodrigo Abels, who I think was a nice, fine, respectable fourth liner last year when he played here. He even played some time in the third line. I don't want him here. I'd rather him be on the fourth line. But Abels is a nice, fine guy. And then maybe at some point, if you want to call Gurbankin up and then you move a body or something like that, you can maybe move Abels to that 13th forward at some point. I don't know. Like I said, I'm pretty sure Abels' contract is a one-way deal. So that does need to be put into consideration. And then I have Delorier for now as a 13th forward. Maybe he gets sent down or waived at some point to make room for a guy like Gurbankin. We could potentially see that later down the line. Decors, first two lines, similar to you guys. I got York and Sanheim on my first pair. I got Drysdale and Sealer as my second pair. I pretty much know for sure Ristolainen won't be ready night one. Third line is where the fun comes. I was kind of fluctuating with this a little bit. I ended up agreeing with Eric's third line. I'm going to go with Andre and Grimes as the third line. You need to see what you have in Andre. You both hit the hammer on the nail with that. He's 24. He needs to prove it. If he can't make this team this year, you got another Ronnie at this point. You have another guy that you thought could have been part of this decor for the long term that isn't cutting it. And, I'm hoping we can see the Emile Andre that we saw in the first half of the year versus the second half, especially with a new coach now that's not going to move him all over the damn place. Keep him here as a third pairing guy. I think Juleson and Gilbert will both be your healthy scratch defensemen. So if a guy like if a guy like Andre or Grimes starts to have some struggles, you have two guys who are ready to move into that spot, like a Gilbert or a Juleson. If Gilbert's even on this team, he might even be waived. Who the hell knows? Or sent down to Lehigh Valley. I think Juleson will be more likely to definitely make this team because he has some familiarity with Rick Tocchet. So we'll see with that. And then in that, I think it's pretty simple. I am going to go with two goalies and simply put, I'll say Urson and Vladar. And as for the time usage between the two, I think Urson will get maybe like a 55 to 45% run. I think maybe Urson gets about 45 games. Well, Vladar might get about 37. I only say that more because Vladar has never played more than 31, 32 games, I believe is what his
30,
career
I
high.
think.
32.
Yeah, 32 games. So I think he'll pass that this year, but I don't think they're going to go too over it. Maybe 36 or 7 would be a good number to keep him at. So I think they do want to show that they do have confidence still at Sam Urson, going back to form that he was 2 years ago, going back to form where he wasn't be running into the ground before Carter Hart ended up having his off the ice issues start. So I think that'll be good to get that silverback gorilla of having way too much time, having him more as a 1A instead of a 1. Sorry, that's mosquito that just flew around. Fucking whacked away. But having, damn bug has flopped around once or twice. I got to go smash it after this
That little bum. Get him.
That bastard got friggin' a pest flying around. Mosquitoes. I'm going to clip that. Alex gets pissed off by a mosquito. We'll call that one. But yeah, we're that I think Urson will be better designed or better. You'll get a better version of Urson at least playing 44 to 45 games versus like 52 to 53, which is
all goes back to health. Health.
Agreed too. That's going to be major too because Urson has now racked up a little bit of an injury history, so. I think Fedotov gets waived, but no one's going to buy it. I mean,
no. His cap is too high. You know what I mean? It's close to $4 million. No one's taking that for a backup.
Yeah, he'll end up in Lehigh Valley. That'll save you another $1.1 million too. If me and Eric were talking about this before you joined, if the Flyers do want to potentially sign a PTO guy and make this a little more interesting. Before we wrap things up, actually, since we're on the topic. Jamey, do you have any PTO guys that you might be interested in this team potentially bringing on for before the season begins? And then we'll wrap this up after that.
No, I'm going to be honest. No, I think the Flyers are set. That's just my personal opinion anyway. I totally forgot about the Dvorak. Don't know how. So I have Abels actually now starting in Lehigh as opposed to Dvorak. I had Dvorak centering the fourth line. I totally forgot. And to me, that was my favorite offseason signing was Christian Dvorak, just because of his familiarity with Rick Tocchet. I think that's big, and bringing in Nick Juleson, I think he's got all ends covered there in terms of knowing his system. Juleson knows his system defensively. Christian Dvorak knows his system defensively and offensively, and they could teach the others what exactly Rick Tocchet wants. They could get his message out there, off the ice and continuously talk. So no, I think I don't think the Flyers want to ruffle. I think they have a lot of bubble guys, already, that are chomping at the bit to make this roster. I mean, you got Helge Grans, Adam Jennings. We didn't even talk about Jennings, stuff. So I think defensively they're set in terms of, like you said, Dennis Gilbert, and Nick Juleson. And then offensively, forward-wise, you have Nick Delorier, who may or may not make the team. Nikita Gerbekin, possibly, chomping at the bit for a roster spot, and I just think that Jakob Gaucher, chomping at the bit for a spot. So I think they're already settled sort of there, so to speak. And I think, the goalies, I think that's going to be a weird how they're going to have to try to navigate through that again. I think that's going to be their tough. Their toughness is probably going to be whether to waive Ivan Fedotov, what to do with Alexei Kolosov if he indeed comes back. I just think those are interesting questions.
All righty. With that being said, does anyone else have anything else to say before we wrap this episode up?
Just quick. Honestly, I like when it comes to the goaltending. I honestly don't even think Kolosov is going to come over this year. I believe he's going to probably stay in Russia, probably play in the KHL. I think the Flyers are just going to loan him. With the addition of Vladar, and you still have Fedotov under contract. So I personally believe that he's going to stay in Russia. Fedotov, I wouldn't be shocked if he's waived, like we think. I don't think the Flyers will carry 3 goalies. I just don't see it because I think they're gonna carry 8 defensemen. I think one of Juleson or Gilbert will be waived and going down to the Phantoms. I think it's most probably gonna be Gilbert. Because if you look at the Phantoms right now, like they lost Louis Belpedio last year, so they have no veteran down there.
Yeah, that's a big loss. And the Flyers were high on Belpedio for a little bit there. I guess that was sort of Torts being high on Belpedio as opposed to the Flyers, because all of a sudden now Torts is gone and he's gone. Huh?
Yeah. When Belpedio was here, I thought he
played well. I actually thought he played well.
Yeah. No, but because right now I was looking at the lineup and like in Lehigh Valley, and your veteran right now.
Ethan Sampson.
but Yinning is at 25 years old is the oldest defenseman that you have down there.
Yeah, so, and you need him down there because he's got to teach the youth like Oliver Bonk and stuff, and
That's why I think, like personally, I think like one of those 2 guys that I'm leaning Gilbert is gonna end up with the Phantoms just to have that veteran presence there. Yeah. Most probably Nick Delory is your.
Forward. And it's a shame because he's been a soldier for so long, Nick.
Yeah, it's just that he's come to a point now, and you see it. Like we watch, like you know what? The first year that he was here, I was actually I was really impressed the way he was keeping up and everything.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, you know what? But like the last couple of years, you really saw the slowdown.
Yeah.
And last year especially, and like look, like he's not an everyday NHLer anymore. Like he's
not.
No,
he isn't. He knows it.
Yeah, I'm sure he knows it. I'm sure. Look, that's why. Like I think if he could even be the 14th forward, I'm sure the players would be like, oh, you know what? But
we're all for it.
Just hang around the room, like, or just hang here. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, do your thing.
You got a job. Like next year, you'll be fucking like
that was one
training or fucking player development. He's gonna have something to do.
Yeah.
All respect to Laurier. I love the guy. He's a soldier. He will always defend his teammates, which is the most admirable things about him. But that was one of the many horrible decisions of Chuck Fletcher's, giving this guy a 4-year contract with a damn no movement clause.
For first 2 years. He doesn't have that no movement clause anymore. Yeah. But still, nonetheless, you're right. To give him a no movement clause anyway was, no
disrespect. If they didn't have it those first 2 years, maybe you could have sold him and got some value back for him. But
they probably could have. Like Eric said when he first got here, I mean, the guy, he actually played well. And I thought he played well his second season as well. Getting towards message across and stuff even more, coming in there and laying down the law, but then they signed Hathaway. And then I think that, Hathaway sort of ate some of his minutes too, because you can't bench Hathaway because Hathaway is actually contributing offensively. So you take him out of the lineup and it's like, okay, the fourth line isn't doing anything anymore. Hathaway at least contributes offensively. Maybe not every night, but there are nights, where it's his night. The puck just finds him.
All righty, gentlemen. With that being said, we are going to wrap things up here. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, give us a comment about what you think in the comments section. If there's anything you want us to talk about for future episodes, or just in general, if there's something you liked or disliked about this episode, give us a like, subscribe. We're always open for questions just in general for future episodes. But yeah, with that being said, that's going to wrap things up. We'll see you again in 2 weeks. And as always, take care. And as always, let's go Flyers.